Hey folks, welcome to Airtime Paintball, where people come to find all the information they need to get great values on paintball guns and gear. Today we're going to talk about one of my very favorite paintball guns that there is at any price, and I mean it, and why you shouldn't buy one. Okay, so I mentioned that we're going to be talking about one of my very favorite paintball guns ever at any price, and this is it. This is an Empire Syx. It is the latest iteration of the axe family. It looks quite a bit different than other axes, and they don't actually have axe in the name, but trust me, it's an axe. The mechanics of it are very, very similar. The drivetrain is very similar. If you know what an axe engine looks like, it's very, very similar to that. The way it shoots is very similar, but this is the newest one. So if you're not familiar with axes in general, I'm going to give you a brief history, and I won't go on forever about it because there's lots of places on the internet to find it, and probably most people who see this already know. So I'm going to gloss over the high points. Many years ago, might be almost 10 years ago now, the original axes came out. And it's not exactly the same time, but for our purposes, there was sort of one initial generation of axes. That was the invert mini, and then the axe, the original axe. And they both used, it's not exactly the same as this, but they both used the same axe engine. They're very similar. The invert mini is just like it sounds. It's mini. The proportions are smaller. The foregrip is closer to the trigger grip, and very compact for people who like to play with a very tight setup, and a lot of kids like them because they're very small. Performance is great. A couple issues here and there with the early ones, but generally speaking, addressable. Largely very reliable, very high performance. They could shoot super fast. They weren't hard on paint. Good solid guns, and quickly got a reputation for being a really good value. They weren't hugely expensive, and they just worked. So some years went by, and eventually we had sort of a second generation of axes come along. And again, not exactly at the same time, but for our purposes, which was the Axe 2.0 and the Mini GS. And those are both great guns. The Mini GS came a little bit earlier. It was pretty much an upgraded version of the Invert Mini, as you could imagine, still with that small chassis and real tight ergonomics. Had some additional updates. The board was different. Mild updates to the engine, but essentially the same performance in a newer package. The Axe 2.0 was kind of another upgrade from there because it included those same things, not the tight chassis, but the updates. It also had removable eye covers, which is great. Now, real quick, for if you don't know, not familiar with that, the eyes are electronic eyes underneath these red covers you can see, and they send a light signal across the breech, and they can tell if there's a ball in there or not. And the point of that is that if there's no ball all the way in the breech, when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. And that helps not chop a lot of paint, right? If the ball's only part way in, when you pull the trigger, it won't fire, and saves quite a bit of ball breaking. Now, the part about the removable covers is that even with that system, eventually everyone's going to break ball inside the gun. That just happens, right? And with the previous generations up until the Axe 2.0, in order to clean those eyes, you had to literally now completely disassemble the gun. Reg off, trigger frame off the body. Those models have a plate in between. They call it transfer plate. That has to come apart. There's a board in there. You have to remove that. Everything has to come apart in order to get to the eyes, and then you can clean them and put it back together. Now, I mean, is it brain surgery? No, but it's time consuming and irritating, certainly, especially with the newer models like the Axe 2.0 and this one. Removable eye cover. You just pop one bolt, pop the cover off, clean the eye, put it back together, done. Huge improvement for field maintenance. Now, in addition to the Axe 2.0, we had the Axe Pro. Now, there was actually an earlier Axe Pro, which was really just a mildly upgraded and mostly cosmetic difference between the original Axe and the original Axe Pro. They stretched out the foregrip, gave it some different milling, and it had an OLED board, and that was about it. But then after 2015, we had the Axe Pro, and they called it the same thing, but it was a wholly updated model. Again, removable eye covers. It had that Redline OLED board built into it, like the Syx does. Now, this isn't the same board exactly, but I'm saying the displays in the foregrip, etc., very similar to the X Pro. And then after that whole generation of guns, we have the Syx. And now I mentioned it doesn't have the word axe in the name, but you can really kind of think of this as sort of the Axe Pro 2, kind of, right? It has the stretched out foregrip like an Axe Pro, removable eye covers like the Axe Pro. And as I mentioned, there's a few updates. The engines are a little bit different. The Syx has a larger air chamber that is supposed to reduce the operating pressure a little bit, which is kind of the holy grail always with any model of gun, right? Every time there's a new iteration of a gun, they try to reduce the operating pressure to make it have a smoother shot and be easier on paint and less kick when it fires. Yeah, so that brings us up to this one. And as I mentioned, now the looks are polarizing. Not everybody likes the way these look, but in this particular color and some of the other combos, I like the way it looks. I love the way it feels. The grip is good. The ergonomics are very good. I feel very stable when I'm switching hands. It's very easy to handle. The grips are right, you're grippy grips. But I mean, you know, the rubber is soft. I mean, they're just everything about the ergonomics. I love the trigger. I love the way it feels when it shoots. I think it is clearly the best iteration of the axe to come along. But as I said in the beginning, should you buy one? These are $700 new. They're available on the used market. Now, if you're willing to get one that's all black, not one of the color. Now, this is a weird thing, right? When they're new, they're all the same price. But on the used market, some of the, I don't know what you call fancier ones, I guess, like this, as opposed to all dust black, are getting a little bit more money. If they're a real nice condition, like this one's pretty much a new condition, I could probably sell this for, I don't know, like $480 or something, maybe 500. And then the all black ones can be like about $450 if they're in really, really good shape. And if they're a little bit game worn and such, but still solid and reliable, and as I've mentioned all along, all the axe guns are just stone hammer reliable. They're great, super reliable guns, so generally don't have to worry about that. But if it's a little bit game worn and it's the all matte or dust black, you may see them as low as maybe 400 or so, which is a pretty good value, right? But should you buy one? No, absolutely not, in my opinion. And why not? Well, the reason why not, I'm going to put this right here. I keep talking about the Axe Pro. This is an Axe Pro. You might notice also has the stretched out ergonomics. And when I mention that, the other versions, the Axe 2.0, the Mini GS, etc., the original Axe, have the foregrip right up against the trigger frame, and you can't get your whole hand in there to hold them like this. They're a little bit more compact. I believe this is superior ergonomics. It comes with the OLED board, much like the Syx, not the same board. And I'll tell you, this board is actually brighter than this board is, and the function is pretty much the same. And I don't know if you can hear this. I'm going to be quiet for a second. It's going to beep. Maybe you can hear that. It beeps, and the Syx does not beep. Now, I know that seems pretty silly, right? But here's the problem. The screen on the Syx is not as bright as this one, which makes it, I mean, for me, it's literally impossible to see it in sunlight when I'm outside. So if I'm trying to turn it off at the end of a game or change a setting, it's pretty much impossible because I have no feedback. It doesn't beep, and I can't see the display. So I'm kind of out of luck if I want to adjust anything while I'm on the field. Like, like for example, I've gone from practice with scrimmaging with some tournament guys into a rec game with some rental players, and I want to change it from ramping to semi. I can't do it. So I can't hear it. I can't see it. Right. This one is brighter, so I can see it, and it beeps. So just in case it's maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've never been able to not see it, but if I couldn't see it, I could still hear it beep when I push the button. So I think the board is superior in this gun. It's pretty cool looking. This is an all matte black one. They have all kinds of cool color combinations that are really nice. I'm going to show you the drivetrain in both of these now. This is the Pro. And here we have the Syx. No difference there. if you look at them, the actual bolts are exactly the same. The spring is the same. I mean, it could have a slightly different rate. I'm not sure, but I think they're the same. You can see that the Syx does have a larger chamber. The entire engine is actually a little bit taller to make room for this extra volume inside this chamber, and that's where they got the lower operating pressure. Hey, look, the thing does shoot really well, and that lower operating pressure may be paying some dividends. But I'll tell you, when I shoot them back to back, I'm hard pressed to tell the difference. I mean, they have a different sound signature, but I'm not really sure that one is really louder or quieter than the other. They're just really different mostly. So really, shot quality, I have to call it a tie. They're both easy on paint. There's really nothing to choose between them, except when you go to buy one. This one is pretty much like new. It doesn't have a mark on it. It's minty mint, and you can buy a gun like this one for well under $400. When I say under 400, I mean way under 400. I mean, if you're willing to spend, say, I'm going to say $330, you can pretty much have your pick of the nicest Axe Pros that exist. Anyone who's trying to charge more than $330 for an Axe Pro is charging too much, frankly, in my opinion. If you're willing to get one that is a little bit, like I mentioned, a little bit game worn. I don't mean beat up or dragged behind a truck. I mean just you get a little bit of barrel wear from use, and a little nick or whatever here and there, just because it's been used, right? You can pay under $300 for an Axe Pro and get a perfectly good gun. So yeah, you're not going to find a Syx for under $300, and arguably, my experience playing, like the quality of my whatever, I don't know how to describe it. I guess my quality of play experience is really better with the Pro because of that bright screen that beeps. Seems silly, and it's not a huge difference, but it's a difference, especially given the fact that really apart from that, there's not a lot of difference. I mean, so if I can pay less and get a positive difference, I'm all about that. So for me, Axe Pro, the best value in paintball guns that exists. Now, there are a couple of other pretty nice guns that can be had around that price range. We're going to cover those in future videos. One that comes to mind is the G-Tech. You can see behind me, I think you can see the red one up there. That's got a mech frame on it right now. That's my son's gun. But those come with electronic frame, and you can get a G-Tech with the OLED display for under $350, and those are also excellent guns. So yeah, we'll cover that in future videos. But for my money, when you combine reliability, parts availability, they're super easy to fix, and they've existed forever. So you can easily get whatever you need. The support you get from Empire is beyond reproach. I've called there several times for various things and always gotten super great service. And the price, not this particular one is like super minty, but like I said, if you're not willing, if you are willing to, maybe accept one that's really seen some use a little bit, you can get this kind of performance for under $300. That can't be beat, in my opinion. What do you think? Leave some comments below. Oh, I almost forgot. Hey, if you like what you see, like and subscribe. I'm going to say that every time. But if you wouldn't mind, be so kind as to like my videos and subscribe. That would be great. But yeah, in the comments below, what do you think? Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think there's another gun that's the best value in used guns going right now. If you agree, but for different reasons, whatever it is, I'd love to see your comments. Maybe you'd like to see me talk about this gun, like a kind of a versus, right? This one versus the one that you think is a better value. Let's make a video. You let me know. Thanks very much. I really appreciate you stopping by.